Over here, Megan.
Hi, Zach. First, I just wanted to personally thank you for all the work that you're doing for suicide prevention. It's really important to me. And I guess I'm going to be the first person to throw out that awkward question about Justice League, which is basically...
Sure, what about it?
So, David Ayer...
How, was it fun to make?
So David Ayer came out and...
David Ayer, okay.
He came out and he talked a little bit more about the early process, about how in Suicide Squad, originally, their villain was going to be Steppenwolf, and they're going to be fighting parademons and stuff like that, and he also released and also you on Instagram released an image of Darkseid and stuff like that. So I guess my question is kind of, what the hell happened?
It's a good question.
And what was going to happen?
All right. It's a fair question. David surprised. I'm not sure about that what David's talking about with the. I mean, look, Steppenwolf's in this movie, which was anyway. I mean, you saw him in this movie, so how? Oh, Granny Goodness. Oh, it could have been Granny Goodness. That might have been cool. I don't remember him talking about that, but that could have been cool. Granny Goodness that's also crazy and fun. But yeah, so look, there was a lot of great conversations that I had with David about, even just getting our Batman in and getting our Flash in Suicide Squad to try and start doing that a little bit. But we were also not incredibly. We didn't want to go too crazy with it. At the same time, we were trying to be and the idea was that the different directors would kind of have their take, and we try and just support each other, so that it could mesh up, but at the same time not force anyone into a decision maybe they didn't want to make. Right? That makes as best you can. It's hard sometimes because you're like, look, I need Steppenwolf because he's the bad guy. One of the bad guys in this movie. So anyway, so those are the conversations that we had, and I thought that everyone was doing a really pretty good job as we went forward, and Patty was awesome because she had to take my photo, and put it in her movie, and we had to work out how that happened because we had a placeholder photo for a long time that Steve Berkman, who is a teacher at this school and who shot both photos, took. Because even before we had a script for Wonder Woman, we didn't know, we weren't sure when that movie was going to happen and how it was going to happen. And so we had to, just based on our story, we had taken a picture of Wonder Woman in a ancient war with, a team of soldiers, very similar to the one that ended up in her movie. Now, there was an actual story built around the one that she has in her movie, and so that was I thought that was the best case scenario, right? So, what about it? You mean how she used it or how it evolved? The Wonder Woman theme was written specifically for this movie, because when we wrote the theme for Wonder Woman in this movie, there wasn't a Wonder Woman movie yet. So you can imagine that. And then it was up to Patty whether she wanted to use it or not, right? And I think it's in the movie. So yeah, so she was like, yeah, cool. And I think Hans is doing now Wonder Woman 84. So that's a good relationship. That's nice. So that's, I think, the best case scenario for how the whole thing could work. And as far as, listen. No. what I was going to say is that, like, look, when this movie came out, understand that we had written, Chris Terry and I had finished the script for Justice League before this movie came out, right? So that script was done. Movie came out, and some people didn't like the movie. A vocal minority. and so I was asked by the studio to like say, hey, you can't, there's a lot of stuff we don't want you to do from that script. So we did a rewrite, right, of the script. So the original Justice League that Chris and I wrote, we didn't even shoot. I mean, there's a lot of it that we shot, but the actual idea, the hard idea, the scary idea, we never filmed because the studio was like, that's crazy. And we were so insecure at the time after this movie came out, we were just like, I guess it is crazy. Like, we're fucking nuts. Like, what are we, there's gonna be mass hysteria in the streets if we film this. Apparently.
Crazy. All right.
It's a long story. But suffice it to say, that, like, so look, the truth is that, you know, the nightmare sequence in this movie, right, was always my idea that all of that would be eventually explained, of course. I mean, is that a surprise? You know, that we would end up in the distant future where Darkseid has taken over Earth and where Superman has succumbed to the anti-life and where he and now with his ragtag band. And there was a few members of the Justice League that had survived to that world and that they were fighting to try and you know, so Batman's with the broken half a cyborg because, you know, it's only half of him because of whatever happened. They were working on equation to jump flash back to tell Bruce, you know, obviously. You guys aren't surprised because you know this is what I've read it.
So now that you know this, don't tell anybody.
Nice. Anyway, so those were the things that we were dealing with. And not to say that the studio still, you know, they were still into sort of the big look, but the details of how and why everyone was mad at each other or why, that was the stuff where they were a little bit like, because, you know, Lois, you know, and it's in the little teaser where the Justice League teaser that wasn't in the movie apparently, where Wonder Woman says, it's this line where Bruce says, I was right here, and Barry Allen came to me, and he said, Lois Lane is the key, right? And then she goes, he is the Superman. Every heart has one. And he goes, I think it's something more, something darker, right? And what it means is that the thing that was darker was that, you know, it was all about if Lois died, Superman would succumb to the anti-life, of course, right? And if Superman knew that somehow it was Bruce's responsibility to protect Lois, he would have been mad at him in this movie, right? Like, so that's why he says, she was my world and you took her from me. So that was sort of and then of course, he has to jump back. And the other thing that we were working on was this idea that Cyborg said to Bruce in the distant future, like, there's two windows. We had come up with this time traveling concept where basically the way the time traveling window worked is that it's not awesome physics and doesn't make any sense, but that you had to jump, you had to do a time jump when the Earth was in relatively the same spot, right? Because if you did a time jump and the Earth wasn't like in the same position in space, you would jump into space and just be like dead. And so, okay, so there's always like, so they only had they had 2 windows, right, to do the jump. And Cyborg says, like, which of these 2 windows do you think we should use? And Bruce was like, well, what window would you have put me through if you didn't ask? And he's like, this one. And then he's like, use the other one. Because that one you already did, and it was the wrong one. Barry Allen was in my freaking Batcave yelling at me about, like, nonsense. So you need to put him through that other one, because that's the one that will... Because he had to jump right before Darkseid boom tubes into the Batcave to murder Lois, so you have to, like... Anyway, so that was the window that he had to hit. Anyway.
All right, so I'm just going to say that right there, easily worth another 100.
It's in the future.
There you go.